All right, GM CryptoSapiens, and we are back for the third episode of this mini-series we're hosting with OpenRank, and today we have Moe and Sahil. So we're hearing more voices from the OpenRank team, and that's really cool because we're getting to understand at a deeper level, and maybe even more broadly, what it is that we're building here with Kira and channel tokens. So let's get started. GM to Sahil and Moe, how are you doing today?
Thank you for having us. Doing well. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much again, Humpty. Great to see you again. Hope you're not bored of me by now. But yeah, good to be back.
Well, let's get started because I think we've actually laid a really great foundation into what is OpenRank, what is Kira, what are channel tokens. Episode 1 and 2 are already out now. This being the third episode, I want to talk now more about the token ecosystem more generally, but then also narrow it into the tokens inside of Farcaster and exploring some of the ways that they have really revolutionized the way that we engage with tokens online or on chain, probably better said. And then looking at this from the lens of channel tokens, Cabal, Nature, and all of the other channel tokens that are being developed and deployed now. Why don't we get started? Let's lay that groundwork. Sahil, tell me a little bit about just some of the research that you did going into developing channel tokens, and maybe we can frame this from some of the most popular tokens on Farcaster like Degen and Ham and Moxie and some of the others.
Yeah, I think let's get into it. I think one of the novel things about Farcaster is that it marries kind of this, it's one of the early places where there's experimentation happening between the speculative and the financial nature of crypto and the social network aspect of, hey, people are on a social network, they're talking about stuff. Now people actually can monetize the attention, or people can actually start, people who want to develop and deploy tokens have an audience to bootstrap with, So I think those are very interesting themes in crypto social, and we've seen it's almost a year since we saw the Degen experiment. I think that was kind of a landmark moment in Farcaster, in crypto social at large, where we saw someone dropping a Degen token to the early adopters on Farcaster. And the whole idea was we will use this token to tip people for generating good content on the network. So it was almost a peer-to-peer financial social network, which was controlled by Degen. And that was kind of a great experiment, to start with. And then you keep on iterating and try and see how to make it better. And of course, with every new experiment, you kind of come with a bunch of challenges and things that you didn't plan for, like, hey, now people are going to start farming things, or people are going to just try and game the system just because financial incentives come in. So I think that's always going to be we're going to be walking on ice when we're doing financial experiments. Some of the things will be outcomes which are not desirable. But they are outcomes of the underlying kind of experiment or technology. So I think Degen was a great starting point. It at least got a few things right, where there was so much attention coming to Farcaster. There's the high volume of conversations on Farcaster. We saw such a exponential growth on the network, and then we haven't stopped since then. I think that was kind of a market's way to say, hey, people want to be on Farcaster because you make great friends. IRL friends become kind of online friends or on-chain friends. It's also a place where some of the similar vibe people in crypto get together. And then the third thing was, hey, people also want to make money. People want to do stuff on chain. I think that is what these token experiments started to validate. We're still in the early era. It's not like it's done. We're still kind of seeing this as an experiment. So Degen was a great start, and then we saw Moxie, where people can just engage with each other, and they can monetize their engagement and their contribution to the network. So they've been, and Ham is, I think that the number of experiments and iterations deployer, who's the developer behind Ham, has done is exceptional. He ships and he tries every single possible thing to gamify, to create a fun, crypto social financial experience for users. So there's been a bunch of these tokens, whether they're monetizing attention like Moxie, or they're incentivizing people to tip each other and promote good content. And we're seeing this early era. And I think that's kind of what we realized, that there is a space to use token as a tool to not just financially reward people, which has been kind of the first era. Degen, token, Moxie, and Ham, and many others incentivize people financially. But how can we use token as a coordination tool to bring the community beyond just that transaction of me receiving money? How can I use it for the greater good of a particular small community that I'm a part of, to promote the vision, the mission, but also create a sustainable economy? So at least that's kind of the zoom out way of us. If I had to extrapolate, where can this token and social or crypto financial social experiment go? That's kind of where we're heading towards, and that's exactly where we're trying to come in. And obviously, Mo's been in the trenches as for as long as I've been, so I'm sure he has more color and opinion on this.
Before we get to Mo, I want to touch on some things that you talked about that I think are worth highlighting. Degen specifically, there are several things that it did right that I think have enabled it to get that initial boost of attention and utility in the Farcaster ecosystem and longevity, because people are still using it today for tipping. It actually was born from a channel and the activity in a channel. Channels were a brand new thing. One of the first channels to open up was Degen. And a lot of the conversations that were happening there culturally were very different from the conversations that were happening on Farcaster generally. And it was this shift, I think, that drove a lot of value to the conversations that were happening there, and eventually kind of encouraged Jacek and others there, like Wake, to then deploy the Degen token. Then beyond this like genesis point, there is this connection to things that are also true for channel tokens, which is the ability to reward attention and engagement. And tipping was the way that it went about that. Obviously, with channel tokens, a little different, as we described previously, using Cura and OpenRank to be able to more algorithmically reward people based on this activity versus doing so a little bit more arbitrarily or much more opinionated from a personal level, where it's like, I think that was fantastic, I'm going to tip you some Degen for that. It's much more integrated, right? With Ham, I think one of the things that they do well with Deployer leading this project is the integrated nature of the way that it works, not just within Farcaster, but the DeFi ecosystem at large. So it's really interesting to see the growth of all of these projects and the way that tokens have really changed the landscape of Farcaster and the engagement that's happening on Farcaster. So personally, and I think I've mentioned this now several times going back to the first episode of this and before that, is what's really exciting for channel tokens for me. This proposition of scalability and accessibility to these things that these really smart and technically savvy people can do, but much more largely to people like myself who don't have that technical ability. So now bringing it back to Mo, your experience is not necessarily technical. Your experience is more, on the design side of things, more on the product side of things. I'd love to hear your kind of view of the tokens that came before us, like Degen and Ham and Moxie, and how the as a product person, why that was so successful, and some of the things that we can learn moving forward with channel tokens.
Yeah, definitely. So I agree with what Sahil mentioned, and like that journey of seeing all the different tokens and how they approached and how they launched and what process they did, and learning from all of them was very helpful. So we started with Degen. Degen was even before frames and before cast actions and before any of those things, right? So they didn't even have any infrastructure to do the distribution of their channel for their token, right? So they had to depend on just comments. And I think that worked out really well for them, because that increased the virality and everyone sees that these comments and people are getting money, and that worked out really, really well, And then other communities and other experiments started iterating on that, So other tokens that came after that also did tipping by comments, but then cast actions came out and they started experimenting with those, and then frames came out. And then there was a lot of iterations on the V1 frames and now V2 frames, right? So I feel like with every token that was launched by the community, we all collectively learned something and we iterated, right? And the way I see where things are now, the way we see things at Kira, and OpenRank is what Degen did with their token and their channel. We want to give that to all channels, with having very little dependency on other infrastructure or setting things up yourself. We would just want to give one product that gives you that entire experience one-to-one. If you have a community that's engaged and really tight-knit and, you're thinking of ways to, reward engagement and launch a token for that community, it makes perfect sense to use a product that combines all those elements together. You have your channel with your content, your engagement, and your users coming every day. But you also want to add a leaderboard to that to reward those users. So that's what we're trying to build with Kira, and we're building it step by step. We're starting with just a simple leaderboard for your channel that you can see who's engaging, who's active. And there can be friendly competition between people. And if you choose to launch a token, then we can make that leaderboard the reward mechanism for the token, So I feel like, the experience, the all-in experience of everything being put together in one single product, we're hoping that would incentivize more communities to, reward their users and, really incentivize that engagement and that content creation flywheel.
I think Mo put it very nicely here, is that we are learning from these experiments and seeing how can we scale these experiments without developers having to actually go and do every single thing that a fantastic entrepreneur like Jacek would have to do. And I think that's where the platform comes in. Like, just to take simple things, what we learned with Degen is people want to earn money and they want to be tipped, and people want to tip if there's good content. What we also saw is that there was some sort of social capital. If I receive tips, like, hey, I got so many tips today, that would be great, because guess what? If I got a lot of tips, I would get some airdrops. Right? And the tips are a signal from the community that I did great. That's it, right? Now, we learned that this is desirable human behavior, but it still is a little bit of cognitive as well as a burden of, okay, I have this allocation, I have to go and read the content and I have to tip. I want the utility of it for sure. I want to see costs from all the top tip people, right? That was the whole idea. If a comment got a lot of tips, essentially that comment should be surfaced up, and that new person in the community also has a chance now to build some street cred. Now, if you look at all of these things, there are some things that are constant, and how can we automate those things? So that's where what Mo mentioned about channel leaderboard. A channel leaderboard is basically using the idea that if community members in a particular channel are engaging with your content, then it should drive up your street cred. If you're high on the channel leaderboard, automatically you should also get rewards. And if you are up there, you're getting rewards, you can go and easily engage with other people, and you can go and, without having to do a lot of the manual things. So I think that's where we're learning so many from these experiments. How can we make these things so seamless that they actually create this desirable social network, which actually has a built-in growth driver. People want to do these things. They want these things to be automatic. Like, everyone would want to give a tip. But how much is my current tip? How do I find content? Those were issues that we saw. So we actually did work with Jacek, and we created a ranking purely based on how many tips someone received and who did they receive the tips from, right? So this is where we started using OpenRank's potential to create a reputation system based on Degen tips. And that's why everything that we're building now is from all of those experiments. Like, hey, wow, it could be cool if I actually had a feed based on the tipping leaderboard, and then those people receive tips based on that, plus the content that people get to see is also based on that. We're building on top of all of these learnings, and then trying to make things easier, simpler for communities such as channels.
This is really nice. I mean, the one thing that I'm hearing specifically when it comes to leaderboards is some of the challenges in gamification where there were incentives to participate and to be active in these channels that caused confusion in terms of your ranking or the status, if you will, of that activity and of you in these channels. started to cause maybe some confusion from individuals, maybe some frustration, because it's like, well, I've definitely been very active and I've been tipping people and I've been, receiving a lot of tips, but it's the lack of transparency, really, that causes a lot of these issues. One of the things that I've really enjoyed seeing with the Kira leaderboard that you can very easily add as a V2 frame, as Sahil has been very kind to remind us through his own cast, allows you to see where you stand very easily and regularly, right? This gets updated very often based on your activity, but also the engagement that's happening from your activity in these channels. I really like that. I personally put out a challenge once or twice a week telling people, you should be beating me on this. Just because I'm the one that started this channel doesn't mean that I'm the one that has to create the most value in this channel. What has been very pleasant for me to see are people who are creators that are coming in and are taking on that challenge and moving up that leaderboard very quickly. I love to see that as a channel owner, but I'm sure they love to see that as just a channel member who just came and started casting for the first time.
Absolutely, and I think there's you're leveling the playing field for people, and you're giving the power of this to the community. You're not let a person or a company decide who should be ranked and what content should be ranked on top. At the essence of it, what Degen did is it brought peer-to-peer trust signals as a key atomic unit of rewards, of contribution of which content is great. With OpenRank and Cura, we're just saying, hey, channel community, you decide your own kind of starting point, you decide your own method, but we'll make everything transparent. Everything is easy, right from the product for you to use, so that people feel a part of it, and it's not like zero sum games happening. It's really it takes a lot of effort to build a community, and I think I touched on this, and Humphrey, you're right in the ring doing that. And I think if people start to see it's a fair process, everyone has a shot, and the desirable values, content, mission of the community is lived by someone, then they should be rewarded, and there should be some consensus. So now we're at the cost of being more philosophical and abstract. I think that's exactly what we're trying to put practical touch and feel product through something like a leaderboard, or through distributing your tokens automatically every week to people who are doing good content, or to showing a feed which is purely based on who are the top people, what was the top content, because that will drive more and more people to come back and see what receives quality engagement. So I think that's kind of how we're trying to marry the principles of harboring open autonomous communities with actually what should a product look like.
Our absolute top priority is to prevent engagement farming and things like that, and people cheating the system. People who are engaging honestly and really truly contributing to a channel, no matter what the topic is, can gain prominence and be rewarded for their contribution. So no system is perfect, and even all the previous tokens, there have been issues and things like that, and we're all learning from it. But yeah, that's absolute top priority to really focus on rewarding real, honest, good content, and good engagement.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, the one thing that just keeps coming to my mind is the ability to give people an easy way to just connect with other people, other nodes in that network, if you will, which are channels. And the leaderboard is a wonderful tool. I wonder, Mo, if you can kind of expand on some ideas as the leaderboard has now already been deployed and several different channels are already using it. They don't need a channel token in order to use it. What are some of the things that you're seeing that you're excited about? What are some of the things that you're seeing that people want that really are driving ideas for you and for the team as well?
So, right now we launched that channel leaderboard as a standalone experience. One thing that we keep coming back to is to give channel their own feeds that they can control with different types of feeds, that people can switch between and see and explore different content. So we're playing around with that and, thinking of how to display that and how to build that user experience for the users to marry a feed with a leaderboard, and the token aspect of it. So I think combining all of those together is very exciting and very new. We haven't had that, I think, in the Farcaster ecosystem for channels to play with as a Lego, So I think giving you flexibility over that feed and a way to curate content on that feed, I think is very useful for channel mods and channels in general, so that's our focus right now. And how can we iterate on our product to bring you that experience of your own channel feed, and an experience that really feels like your own channel app.
So I feel this is where we're going to put the alpha alert for anybody who's listening, because this feels a lot like something that I've been asking for a long time. If anybody's been listening to Late Night Crew, I know Matthew has talked about it, and that is channel specific experiences where the starting point for Farcaster is someone's channel. You don't necessarily need to go and explore all of these other channels that are on Farcaster. You can opt into that. But at the end of the day, I can speak for CryptoSapiens. I'm talking to creators. I'm engaging them outside of crypto on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, and driving them on chain through some of the conversations that we're having and some of the tools that we use. When they connect with the CryptoSapiens community, they shouldn't necessarily have to go into this large network that is noisy in order for them to start using Farcaster. They should be able to connect straight with the CryptoSapiens community, move up the leaderboard through their own engagement and participation, and even earn in that economy. I think that this is really kind of one of the biggest opportunities for Farcaster as a protocol and any developer that wishes to build on top of that. And I love that you talked about curating these conversations, because obviously I think in crypto, we are doing a really good job at creating tools for creation and collecting, but the curating piece of it is very much still a very big missing piece. Also very much on brand for Kira to talk about curating conversations.
No, absolutely. And I think the last point, you nailed it. We like to create new tools because we want to show the reach of the technology. We want to show what can be done. We want to build a relationship between the creator and their audience, or we want to build a relationship between the consumer and the product itself, right? Even on the internet, one of the hardest problems to solve is curation, because it's permissionless creation happening. That's why you see companies actually expertise, the main expertise is, hey, how do I actually spend any marketplace? The most important value addition in Web 2 is actually curation. It's building these systems where you can go and trust. This is the supply side. If I'm a user, I have a demand, whether it's eBay, whether it's Airbnb, or it's Uber. I know that there's a right set of supply for me, whatever I want to get my job done. And it's really about curation, right? I think you're exactly right. We need to create these mini, if you may, economies. If you see Farcaster or Twitter or Facebook as these big global networks, we are trying to right now follow the global rules for everything we do there. But we see channels and as their own communities, which need their own set of curation, their own set of rules. If I am coming to CryptoSapiens, I really care about what was the top trending content on CryptoSapiens. I really want someone to filter out all the noise from other places so that I can spend time with intent. I come there to get a job done. I want to know what my community is talking about. I want to have a shot at that. It's very difficult to try and marry global rules to every community. And that's why we feel like what Mo said is every channel is their own app. Within its scope, it's their own global network effects for that channel. And that's kind of the experience that we want to give. And the curation there should be driven by the people in that community. They shouldn't be done by any other third-party actors. And I think that's where we do feel like OpenRank is a great foundation to build Cura on. You let every community have their own ranking and reputation layer, which feeds in leaderboards, who are the people and who are living up to the values, which helps you create power feeds for each channel. Where you're actually now trying to bring this community back. It doesn't matter whatever's happening in other places. So I think that's kind of our goal, is to help scale that. And even every channel has their own kind of podcast-like experience, but best suited for them, and make life easy where the mods are not trying to create new tools. They have all these tools out of the box. They're just busy building their community. They don't have to say, hey, now you can go come mint this NFT, or I'm going to try this new crypto tool. And I think that's how crypto social will have an edge, where these things were not possible in other Web 2 social platforms. But with Web 3 rails, you get permissionless identity and financial rails with Ethereum. You get an open social graph with things like Farcaster, and you get almost permissionless open ranking reputation system for your own community. When you marry these things together, you get a fantastic consumer app or consumer experience, which is new, net new than existing platforms, right? So I think that's kind of our current mental model and some of the cool stuff that we've been building, which yeah, we're very excited about in the next few weeks.
Well, I'm excited for you to continue building, and I'm excited for you to share more about what it is you're building when you're ready. I wanted to ask Mo a question. There's a word that, Sahil, you mentioned a couple of days ago when we recorded the first episode, and that I feel like we need to weave into the social fabric of Farcaster, and that is channel entrepreneurs, right? We're looking at people who are on Farcaster as these entrepreneurs who are driving growth, that are driving meaningful attention through these channels. As someone who works in the product space, I wonder if you can give us maybe some insights from your experience in terms of like how people like us who are building on Farcaster and have a product, right, which is a channel, have a product which is a channel token. How can we think like entrepreneurs in order to succeed in this new meta that is Farcaster channel tokens?
The first thing you need from the tool that you're using to organize all of this is control. You need control over your channel, over who's in your channel, how they get rewarded, how they curate content. I think our first good step in our product is to give you that control over your experience and your product, because every channel has its own vibe. Every channel has its own rules and meta, right? The product has to facilitate that. The product has to give you the freedom to explore that. So, like a single product that all channels use that looks exactly the same for all channels, that might not work. So I think there's a lot to explore there and iterate on and experiment with to see what we can do there. But once we give you those tools, I think it's on the channel owners and moderators to also experiment and try to see what sticks, because there is no one formula that works for all channels. As I said, like there's different vibes and different metas and different purposes of channels, right? You just have to experiment, use these tools, see what your community likes and what gels with the community, what feels right. And you double down on the things that work, and you just grow it slowly and try to bring more people to that share the same values and the same goals, and try to grow it just slowly.
When we started Cura almost 5 months ago, we did a persona customer interviews with a few channels, and we started to see that there's no one size fits all for channels, right? You can't create something which you can generalize for all channels. We saw channels which are around brands, right? We saw channels which are purely about tokens. We saw channels which are topical, and then we saw channels which are customer support. And we saw that all of these channels are standing for different things. They want to drive different things. Brand channels just don't care about as much peer-to-peer engagement, but maybe one to many, like, hey, this is what's happening on XYZ platform, etc. Right? So yeah, I think what Mo said is if you have a basic playground which is easy to use for all channels, then a lot of channel entrepreneurs will go and build on top of it. If you have the right tools, when I say the right tools, you have a community wallet, you have your own feeds, you have your own control on who is marked as spam. No one else does, right? You have control on your own channel token. You can show how it's distributed to the community. And community can actually also have governance on top of that. All of these things themselves are actually pretty amazing tools for any entrepreneur without having to think about all of these things, building, designing, putting the thought on what's the right framework, right? How do I write a smart contract? Where do I fetch a feed from, etc. So once you have that, the design surface for how to make the most of driving whatever metric is, its engagement, its market cap of the token, or how much money does the channel make, all of it is up to you. You can go and use your channel token to promote content. You can go and do brand deals. This is the best creator channel, and any token launcher in crypto should come and reward my leaderboard every week. I want to mint limited edition NFTs for people which have certain amount of channel tokens. People who've spent 3 years building great content in my channel, they get something extra. this is how societies organize themselves, right? And every society can, and every kind of, city or whatever shape or form you want to classify it, cut it out, they define. So I think that is where we let the entrepreneur's imagination, the channel owner's imagination really fly. We don't want to constrain that. We're not the ones who are saying, but we want to build a platform where all of these things can actually happen easily, and it's your own space. So I think that's kind of how we position ourselves. But we also want to make sure that we learn from enough users or channel moderators and users to understand what are the bare minimum things that everyone enjoys, they need. And our job is to get that going in the product.
Yeah, and to add to that, for example, for the channel token, for a lot of things, the channel owners and moderators themselves will have to come up with use cases and utilities for the channel token. Through our discussions with them and working together, we can see patterns that a lot of channels want this specific utility with their token. So for some things, we will be able to add those utilities to our product so that it's easier facilitated for the community. But for some things, the channel owner and moderator will have to do it themselves, and go outside the product, right? So I think there'll be a combination of both those things.
Yeah, and I think one example of a step function improvement is the first thing that we think is a drastic improvement when it comes to a community or a entrepreneur and any entrepreneur launching tokens is, hey, I'm doing a fair launch and I'm going to launch this token, whether it's around memes or topic or doesn't matter, right? You can do it easily using all the tools. Now, we realized that one of the most important things to build community was not just to do fair launches, but fair rewards, incentivizing the right people, the people who've contributed easily, finding out who they are and rewarding them, and then creating a repeatable loop for rewarding people over the long term. So that's where the way we think about channel tokens is not about, hey, just launch a token. If you launch your token, you decide how much you want to just keep it open, how much you want to keep, and then automatically we make your life easy to reward people who are creating value for that channel or that channel token. Now that itself is a step function improvement. Now, how do you want to use the token is the other thing that Mo's mentioning about. Hey, now do you want an easy way to distribute NFTs to people who hold a certain token? You want people to create a system of, hey, top cast subscriptions or alpha groups based on my channel token. Great. If that becomes a norm, then that becomes a feature for the platform. But already channel entrepreneurs can start experimenting, and the more feedback we hear from people, we make those things as first class citizens for the product. So these are kind of tangible examples of how we can think about iterating on this.
That's wonderful. I mean, for me, again, some of the things that I really enjoy and have taken away and am very excited about channel tokens isn't just the technical integration, right? I mean, you're out of the box, you have the solution that is already working with Farcaster and its social graph that has a very strong economic layer for you to engage and coordinate, not just with your community, but outside your community, but also this like very fundamental human connection where, as an individual channel owner, you have an interest, you're building out a community of people who care about similar things. You're able to invite them to be a part of this conversation and reward them accordingly. These type of things to me are very exciting as well, and some of the things that I'm very interested in seeing continue to develop. So as we move forward, I mean, I really want to go back and touch on some of these things about scalability, what channel tokens present. Anything you want to add in terms of like what channel owners can look forward to, not just launching a token, but also growing a community with this Kira AI agent and with channel tokens into the future?
Yeah, I can go first. So I think one of the things is that we've barely started this kind of innovative experiment, right, where you have tokens. I think one of the things that I feel we want more and more iteration and feedback from channel moderators is how they can, besides these tokens being distributed or being earned by community, how can they actually create new novel experiences for people to come back to the community for? Is it about, hey, I'm going to start a weekly ritual or a weekly thing that promotes the objective of the channel, and I'm going to use a token for that? Because I think one of the challenges with crypto has been we create tokens and we think about utility later. But how do you go from just a financial tool to a coordination and social coordination tool for the community? And whether it's like, I think one cool experiment is how Ponder has started doing these surveys where people come together and almost vote on like what their opinion is. It's an information kind of market. What does it mean for your channel? Like, how can you start using the tokens to create such amazing gamified experience? At the end of the day, you want people to come back to your community, right? So people want to connect and spend time a few minutes every day, if not more. Thinking about the token utility beyond just earning these tokens is one thing that I feel like we need more experiments on. And then later down the line, we can think about governance. Once things get real and big, we don't need to complicate it right now. I think this is where we have a very practical, pragmatic stance in the team. Is like, governance is an important problem to solve, and tokens give you an option, but it's a later stage problem than starting to bring and grow the community using your token. So I think that's kind of how we feel about it, and venture out more to outside of your channel to bring people, if cross collaborate or collaborate with other channels, right? And learn from each other. Do deals with different channels on. Hey, I'm going to spend a lot of time. I like there's a good spirit between, let's say, nature and CryptoSapiens, or any other channel that suits your vibe, right? So I think those are things that we want more from the kind of experimentation by mods. From our side, what moderators should look forward is we're very focused on making sure that more and more channels have access to the leaderboards and all these tools. We want to make sure we build depth in the offering, where, as Mo said, we want to bring feeds. We want to bring a few more exciting things which make the channel experience much better than what it is today. Today, you have to cross 5 or 6 different hoops to actually try and find good content in your channel. How can we make it just one hoop? Or no hoop at all, right? How can we make that repeatable as well? So I think that's what you can look forward from our side as well. But Mo, feel free to add.
Yeah, basically to summarize all of that, we're trying to make channels cozy corners again, to give you your own space that feels like your own space that you can customize and make it feel like home, and have control over it and try to grow it, through the channel tokens and all of that. So, that's what we're trying to build and iterate on, and hopefully, with channels like yours and others, or slowly, step by step, iterating on it and taking feedback and building what people want,
I love that Mo put his Dan Romero hat on and reminded us that in Farcaster, at least the culture is about building cozy corners. That was really well said. Before we close out, I was curious to hear if you've seen some interesting use cases of channel tokens so far in the way that they're being used in the wild. I know that this is still very new. There are not that many channels that have their channel token yet, because you're being very strategic in terms of how this is deployed and implemented. What are some of the things that you're seeing out there right now? We had Darmy on last week that like when, full alpha in terms of like the different strategies you can use. Have you seen anybody, maybe the Nature channel or Anima Manga channel or even the CryptoSapiens channel, do something that you thought, oh, that was interesting or that was unexpected?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of things also planned. I don't know. I don't want to spill some of the beans that mods are planning to spill themselves. But we are seeing. I can share a few things that we're excited to see. I know they're in the works. One is, how can you use your channel token to grow your channel by distributing it to other channel leaderboards, bringing people into your channel. And at the end of the day, people want to grow their community. So that's kind of one very clear way to use the channel token. I think the other is we will soon see cross-channel token swaps, where people can actually swap and hold. You already, every channel has a which launches a token has a channel wallet. You hold treasury of that channel token, so you can see some of these nice, not new but existing kind of DeFi approaches to channel tokens already taking place. I think one thing that we're yet to see, we've seen a few mods talk about, is using a channel token to promote content, even decide what makes it to a trending feed, and giving the power to the end users, not anyone, but use the token as the social coordination tool. We are actually building a few features which makes that easy versus it being a manual process right now through voting. So hopefully, if we do get validation that this is something people need, we'll accelerate that development as well. So yeah, and I think the basic ones. So these are some of the interesting ones, and I think the basic ones are really hold the channel token to be a member automatically. I think that's basic token gating that should or could happen if you want to gate your channel. And minting, if you're depending on what kind of on what spectrum of the or where do you lie on the creator spectrum? Are you pro NFTs? Are you pro, like, depending on the nature of the channel art, you could do limited edition NFT minting with your channel token. So yeah, I think these are all interesting ideas. We hope to see become the new normal for communities.
Get out of my head, Sahil. Get out of my head and stop telling people what I'm going to do. I'm just kidding. I'm the one that asked for this. 100% agreed. I've seen, new channels announced. I've seen people teasing what I imagine to be channel tokens coming up. So I know that this is a meta that's only continued to grow. I've been a part of different conversations with other Farcaster builders that have gotten extremely excited once they've learned what is, Cabal and what are channel tokens. They want to connect to the open data graph that OpenRank is building. They want to connect with other channel token builders. So there's a lot of opportunity here, and it's definitely something that is a lot more meaningful maybe than some of the things that I've personally seen. Very excited about this. Anything that you think we didn't cover yet that you want to discuss now? Otherwise, we can talk about it on the final episode of this series.
No, I think we covered it all here.
Yeah, and I think my last message is, and this I'm just surfacing some of the things that we've heard from channel moderators, is that we don't need to worry about over-architecting the tokenomics of these channel tokens. I think things work if you keep them simple and easy to understand. So when you think about a channel token, we let the moderator decide how much they want to launch in a liquidity pool, which makes tokens immediately tradable, and what percentage they want to keep for the community, which is automatically controlled by Cura in the channel wallet for distributing over whatever time period you want to build your community or keep the tokens yourself, right? But keep it simple. Don't need to over-architect it. If it's 50-50, if that's kind of, like you did, it makes sense. It's reasonable. A lot of these things are not, they don't need over-analysis, which is against conventionalism where you need to do a tokenomic sheet, etc. No, Bitcoin was 21 million, so simple, easy to understand. Whether it's a billion tokens, 100 billion, really doesn't matter at the end of the day. You start something, keep the right principles, and just embrace it. And there are things which become clear over time. You can't preempt and put it in an Excel sheet. So I think my message to the channel entrepreneurs or community builders is, don't need to fret about it. These decisions will not be make or break. What will be make or break is you embracing it and iterating and learning what works, and then go from there.
21 million seems so quaint now compared to some of these token launches. But, it just goes to show also the evolution of crypto since its early days in 2008 through 2025. Which is where we're at when we're recording this series. So very excited to see what happens in 2028, 2038. We'll just keep on going, keep building. Until next time, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the OpenRank miniseries, and stay tuned for episode 4 coming soon.